Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Mindset U. And Jay and I are talking about if you're a rock star or an all star. We're going to go into what gets us to want to do a thing at work or in our personal lives. So stay tuned and enjoy the episode. Make sure you comment, subscribe, and share with your friends. All right. So let's talk about motivation and what gets I want to talk about from the perspective of like what gets people as a whole to do things, and then also personally what gets me to do things, and motivation in terms of work and let's say whether it's my business, whether it's the company I work for, is getting the energy to want to do a thing.
Yeah.
For me, I, as you know, I always like to understand the why behind a thing. And the reason for that is because for me, understanding the why helps me understand like how does this add up to the greater vision, to the greater picture, which is what motivates me when I feel like I'm building something that's becoming something greater. When there's no why, there's no real reason for it, it's just a task to get done. I really can't find any driver behind doing it. And that's how I crash and burn on something that I'm supposed to be doing, let's say, but I'm not doing because I'm like I don't get the why, so I don't care.
No, that's fair. That's fair. I get that every now and then, but I think that where we differ is kind of well, I kind of feel like motivation is not that it's like bullshit,
Hmm.
but like when it comes to work, the motivation is to provide for your family and to provide, the basic essentials of having a roof over your head, right?
Hmm.
So I could hate my job, and I hated, working in news towards the end. Um, but I would never just quit, I guess, without having a plan, because my motivation of working is to be able to provide for myself. So that's where it comes from for me. So it's like I don't really care about the meaning behind it, the the why. Now it's nice. It's nice to have a why
Hmm.
with certain things, but for me, it was always just like a get her done.
Hmm.
This is the hand that you're dealt, and either you can ponder why you're in this situation or you can just fucking deal with the situation. We can ponder about it when the job's done.
So that's
You know?
interesting because I mean you're talking about the task, right? Doing the actionable thing. It's like it could be whatever, but you do have a why, or in the sense of like it's provide for your family, provide for yourself,
Yeah.
survival. Right. That's the driver behind things. And I agree with you in terms of motivation. Like motivation is just a spark to get you started, right? But
Yeah.
what keeps you going is, you have to have the discipline and so on and so forth. Which is interesting because so going into that from that why standpoint, like for me, there is this greater why, which is why I need to understand the task that I'm doing. The greater why for me always connects to like my legacy, like what I'm leaving behind is this vision of meaning behind my life, if you will.
Yeah.
And that goes into the task. If this task doesn't like if I don't believe in it that it's building to this legacy, and it could be like I'm not saying I won't do something out of sheer discipline because I don't see a greater kind of connection like this is gonna right. I can do those things, but when the bigger picture that I'm building that adds on from this task, so I do this one task and connects to this other task, whatever, it just strays away from my vision of myself and my impact and all of that. Like to me, there's no driver behind that, and I wouldn't be able to do that. And it's interesting because the idea of like finance, of like being able to provide, I've always, and this has been a frustration with Moses and my wife, where it's like, I'm willing to sacrifice that. I'll live under a bridge. And song is like, yo, I'm doing something that matters.
Yeah.
Like that's what gets me going. But obviously having a family, then there that comes that aspect of like, okay, I need to also be able to provide for them.
Yeah. It's different when you have people actually depending on you,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's not to say like that's like the creativity killer of like when
Mm-hmm.
you have to have like, when people are depending on you for something, but it's like, I guess it's like you got to be a grown up kind of thing. And I said kind of thing. I've been trying not to say that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's just one of those things where it's like you get to like a crossroad, and I'm always jealous of people who are able, not jealous, but I admire is a way better word. I admire people who are able to get to that crossroad and merge the two together, where it's like my passion or my passion, my calling, I guess, is helping me provide for my family in some sort of way.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I always, admired you and Mo for taking on VidaProject, because you guys were figuring out a way to provide for yourselves,
Mm-hmm.
because it's not easy.
I love that you said that, because there's this practice is called the curiosity. It's to learn how to create that passion that you were talking about. And I want to be clear for whoever listens, is that you're not finding a passion and a purpose that's the right one for you. It's like you build it, you work towards it, and as you take a curiosity, turn it into an interest, turn it into a vocation, a passion, a purpose. Like you build that with intention and purpose and discipline. So it's something that you decide to begin with. There's a practice in which you learn how to do that, where you take 26 curiosities, right? And when curiosity is a much lighter word than a passion and all that, right? Because it's like stuff that you're just interested in, right? You just take these interests and you're like, oh, I would like to learn about skydiving, I like to learn about, I don't know, race car driving, photography, like things that are just you're curious about, right? And you list them out. And then when you list them out, you start to focus on a few at a time by going into that interest. So you just purposely maybe start watching some videos about it. Maybe you start, you subscribe to like a blog that talks about that. Whatever it is, something that starts to let you build that interest. And that's when you get the real information, where it's like, oh, this is something I want to continue to pursue. My interest just keeps growing, or something that it just feels like work, right? And that helps you kind of hone that thing. But as you build it, you start honing it, you start learning more about yourself, but you also start developing specific skill set and language and so on and so forth that have to do with those interests. So with like you mentioned Moses and myself, for me, what I've done that practice many times, and I've noticed that each time it becomes more specific, right? I started with these broad curiosities that didn't seem to connect. But the next part of it is like you start to connect these curiosities. So it's like, oh, maybe I like race car driving and photography. So then you're like, oh, maybe I can do photography inside a racing car, or videography inside
Mhm.
or maybe you can learn to fly a drone, where it's like you learn how to navigate and like whatever, something comes out of it that's this like divergent thought of like, how do you merge these things together? So what I'm saying for me is like everything has over time continued to merge together. It's like, oh, this random thing I was curious in, now I somehow brought it into my main thing. And you build this like purposeful, intentional thing that you're like, oh, I'm super passionate about. So it's like this pathway to that doesn't just happen. You have to work towards it. But at the beginning, we're talking about motivation. At the beginning, it seems like work. It seems like something you don't want to do. And you have
Yeah.
to have that kind of like, I'm not motivated to do this. You have to just grind sometimes.
You just have to do it. And I think that's what it comes down to. Like when I had this weird relationship with the term motivation,
Hmm.
because, you know, part of motivation is work. It's you have to work at something, whether it's your own, especially when it's like your own business. Like I think a lot of people, when they hear like, oh, I run my own business, they don't realize how much more effort and how much more time goes into it than when it comes to like having a career working for somebody else. And that's hard too, right? Because like you guys are now in a position where it's like your new career path, it's very time consuming. Do you feel like it's more time consuming than when you were running your own business?
No.
Right? I feel like when you're running your own business, it's 24 hours. It just never stops. You just constantly have to feed that beast. And motivation ain't going to cut it. It's hard work, it's discipline. It's just you have to constantly give into, you have to feed that fire. And if you're just relying on motivation, it's going to be a long day.
That to me, that's huge because like you said, I thought about it, right, to answer that question,
Mm-hmm.
because I get my weekends like Saturday hits. I'm not thinking about work in that sense,
No,
but I'm still thinking about VidaProject. I'm still thinking about the podcast.
think about
Um,
everything else.
and before when it was that VidaProject was my only thing, it was like I'm thinking about it in morning, afternoon, evening. I'm thinking about it th- through the night. I'm waking up thinking about it throughout the weekend. I'm working on it. Like there is no time off, you know? And I think that's huge, which is like going back to that motivation idea is like, why would you want to work so hard? There has to be like an intrinsic driver
Yeah,
for that to be the case.
yeah,
And
yeah. I think. Oh, sorry. No, I didn't
go
mean to
ahead, go
cut
ahead,
you
go ahead.
off. No, I was saying. I think it, and more than motivation, it's like you have to have this like unwavering belief in yourself that
Yes.
and no, because I feel like when it comes to, like when you're business and like running these things, like you have to believe that this is gonna work.
Yeah.
Who starts a business going, this is gonna fail?
No, absolutely.
I mean, there's always that, that there's always a possibility of something failing, but you don't go into going, I'm gonna
Mhm.
put all my time into this, and it's not gonna be in anything.
So, because the reason why I took that pause there is because
Yeah.
the belief in yourself is multiple ways to interpret that, right? Where it's like
Okay.
belief in that, like to me, the shallow view of it is like the belief that I can do this, and like this very positive thing, where it's like, no, you're not gonna have the confidence. You're gonna be like, I don't know how to do this shit. I'm way in over my head. Like that's happening all the time.
Oh, of
the
course.
the belief, to be specific about it, the belief is like that you're going to be able to learn or find a way or find connect with someone or find the information necessary. Like it's the belief in your grit,
Yes,
essentially.
that is a better way. Yeah, it's that belief that you're gonna figure it the fuck out. I think
Hmm.
that's what it comes down to. It's like you just have to have this deep, unwavering feeling in your chest. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna figure it out. I don't. It's not gonna be. It's not gonna be linear. It's
Hmm.
never linear. It's gonna be this fucking roller coaster, loop de loop, fucking scenario to get to where you want to be.
Hmm.
But you know deep down that you're gonna figure it out yourself, and motivation ain't gonna help you there.
Yeah.
It's gonna help you. But you see, I hear myself talking like, are you being overly cynical?
Hmm.
And I don't know if it's because like I hear my dad talking in my head with
Hmm.
that stuff where he's like, it's not, you just gotta do it. You just gotta fucking jump in the fire, buddy, and you just gotta do it. Whatever you plan on doing, you just gotta do it.
Hmm.
There's no, you wake up in the morning, you do it. of course, there are gonna be days that you don't want to fucking do it. We're human, but you know what you do? You do it.
Mm-hmm.
So I always hear that in my head. So like,
That's the
I
part.
was never raised on motivation.
Hey guys, if you're enjoying this podcast, please subscribe, like below, comment, let us know your thoughts, and continue to enjoy. Mm-hmm. That's the part where I'm trying to decipher, because that just do it. There still is a driver. There still is a belief of like, just do it, right? There's something driving you. There's something moving you to feel like, I don't have the energy. Yeah, I'm still going to, like, that's energy that's going into completing a thing that you don't want to do. Like,
Yeah.
there has to be a meaning behind it, right? Because and that's to me what connects to that, like, greater kind of purpose,
Mm-hmm.
where, so like, your perfect example is using your dad here, is like, just do the thing, right? The thing that you may not want to do, let's say go to work and do this task or do that task or do all this list of things. But the thing that you do want to do, the thing that you do want to accomplish behind all of that is, like you said before, like, provide for your family. Or maybe it's the thing that you want to escape, where it's like, I've been poor and without food, and I never want to experience. There is something moving you,
Yeah.
driving you, right? And I think that's a great indicator there, where it's like that motivation is like that momentary thing for that task, right? I'm not motivated to do this thing, so I'm still going to do it. But
Mm-hmm.
what's the driver behind that greater push, right? That's the thing. And that's where you know, you say at work, for you, it's like, it doesn't matter, I don't care about this hoorah, like, every family care, all this shit
Yeah.
at work is like, just tell me what I got to do, I'll get it done. That idea is like, because that driver for you is greater than that place. Those tasks that need to be done at work are that discipline aspect for you,
Mm-hmm.
right? Would you agree with that or no?
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah.
then I think the factor here is like going back to like entrepreneurship, because like, you edit this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like it's a task for you to get paid, or like,
Um.
what's the
No,
driver
I mean,
behind that?
I like getting paid for it. I like the fact that it
Hmm.
helps pay bills.
Yeah.
You know. But it's not like a, oh, I gotta go do this. I enjoy editing, you know, and it's
Hmm.
fun to revisit the conversation that we have, because honestly, it's, you know, half the time we do this podcast and then I'm like, I forget about what the fuck we talked about.
Hmm.
And then going back in here and I'm like, oh shit, that was funny. That was good. Like I learned something.
Hmm.
Um so I enjoy it. So it's not one of those things I'm like, oh, I gotta fucking edit the podcast. Now there's certain days where it's like the day was fucking long. I'm like, fuck, I gotta do this.
Hmm.
And then you just do it.
Hmm.
And it just comes down to this is a responsibility that I have.
Hmm.
You know, not only am I getting paid for it, but it's not just about me anymore. It's about the responsibility of you and Mo. We're a
Hmm.
team, right? And I don't want to let down my teammates. So it's like, oh, fuck, I don't want to do this right now, but I got to do it because it's fucking Thursday night.
Hmm.
Got to do it. This is your fault, Jay. You waited till Thursday to get this done.
Yeah.
You got to do it.
So that's interesting, because you said about like, it's about the team, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just thinking about that, where it's like we can see that as an external motivator, external driver, in that sense of,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to let them down. But there's an aspect about yourself involved in that, because it's like this identity of how you see yourself through us that you don't want to let down, right?
Well, I don't think it's more so that. It's more so I gave you guys my word. It's currency. It's my word is weight in gold. If I tell you guys I'm going to do something, unless there's a reason, I come to you guys being like, "Hey, I can't get this done for such and such reason right now. I'm sorry. I'll get, it'll be done such and such." Um, I just think it's very important because, especially when it comes to my friends, more
Mhm.
so than anything, right? Like, you guys are very close and dear to me. So if I say like, "Hey, I this is the agreement that we had," I edit the podcast. It gets done by Friday. It's uploaded by Friday morning. I do it. It's just now. It's part of my routine.
Mhm.
Now it's like it gets categorized into it's work, and it's another task that needs to get done.
Mhm.
And I just got to do it. I don't know
Yeah.
how else to describe
Yeah.
it.
So
Like,
no, the reason why I asked about the word is because the word is yours, right? It's something
mhm,
that you value intrinsically, and that's going back to like the identity aspect. That's it's
yeah.
part of your identity. It's like, who am I if I'm not a person that says a thing and stays true
Hmm.
to that thing, right? It's like, and what my point with that is intrinsic. There's an intrinsic part to that, and as opposed to like, so financial, right? Like if
Yeah.
it was all financial, that's that's extrinsic, right? There's like
Hmm.
the carrot on the stick idea where it's like the reason why I'm doing it is to get this external prize,
Yeah.
right? So I think those two things are key differences where when we think about the drivers that are pushing us to do things, they can come in from internal, intrinsic, and they can come in from external. And when they come from external, to me, it can motivate you at that moment. It can drive you, right? But I think, like you said before, that motivation is not long lasting. It's going to
No.
run out of fuel.
Yeah.
Versus when it's intrinsic, when there's something internally about you that's driving you to do this,
Hmm.
it's a lot more powerful to create that you know what, I'm not feeling well right now, and I'd rather be hanging out with my dogs and I'd rather be doing this XYZ. When it's against those things, that external motivator is like, fuck it. It's easier to be like, fuck it. When it's
Yeah.
an internal motivator, you're like,
Yeah.
it's harder,
Yeah. No,
right?
110%. Even when it comes to like my actual job,
Hmm.
I work with another really good friend. He's essentially my boss.
Hmm.
I report to him, and I don't care about logistics at all. I can care less. But I want to do a good job because it also reflects on my boy. You know, the less I have to hear him bitch at me like he's my mom,
Hmm.
the better job I'm doing. Um, and if I do good, he does good. We get promoted.
Hmm.
Great. But I think if it was just like a regular job where like I didn't have to report to my boy or
Hmm.
hold myself accountable for, to him, there would be plenty of times I'm like, yo, fuck this shit. I don't give a fuck. Fuck
Yeah.
this shit. I don't care. I think I would have been fired way long ago.
Looking at it from that perspective, what do you think about at work, that whole motivation for getting things done and it being something that you just see as a task being done, or it being greater? Like, what's your thoughts on that overall?
I mean, just all right. I'm just gonna say it from me personally, the broken individual that I am. Um, I'm a good soldier. Give me the task, I'm gonna get it done. I don't care about the pizza party. Anytime work was like, oh, we're having pizza, I would bring my own food and eat my food, and then if I was still hungry, I'd eat the pizza. Just to say fuck you. On purpose. Just how I am. Um, I don't need that intrinsic I don't need that factor from my job of being like, oh man, like you need to do this and there's incentive. I was like, but my incentive, give me a raise. If you're gonna tell me if I do such and such and such and such, and there's a raise at the end of the day, thank you. Now you got the ball rolling. Now you got me excited. But that's just coming from like a corporation side of things. Um,
Can I
I
jump
don't
in on
really
there?
know where else to go with that.
So, because you said that financial, right,
Yeah,
aspect, give me a raise,
yeah,
which is, it circles back to what you said before, which is like your intrinsic motivator is providing for yourself and your family.
mm-hmm.
So giving you a raise is actually fueling that intrinsic motivator.
Yeah,
That's the true fuel for you.
yeah. The whole point of working, right, is so that you can have a life outside of work. In my opinion, right? Like the whole point of, I'm not saying like when you have your own business. I'm saying when you're working for somebody else, the whole point is you work, you do your 9 to 5 or however long that it takes you to do your fucking job. You pack up, you go home, and I don't think about that job. I think about my family. I think about everything else in my life that makes me happy that I like doing on my own time. That's what that's why I work, so that I have the opportunity to have that time. So there's honestly nothing career wise that can really get me to go, oh man, my job, my career is my life. I never understand, unless you have your own business, I never understand people who work for like a big corporation unless it's the money.
Mm-hmm.
Then I understand it just a little bit, but I don't even know if I could do that then. Because I say like, oh yeah, a raise is nice, but like if I'm a slave to this fucking job and I don't have an outside life, what good is it?
Mm-hmm. So that's a perspective. Um, and I don't mean that like in a negative way, but it's a
Yeah.
perspective of, because there's two different types of kind of employees, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
One is I forgot from what book this is, but they call it rock star, and I think the other one is all star. Right?
Okay.
Rock star is like, it's called rock star because a rock star wants to be a rock star. They don't want to be a label owner. They don't want to be. They like what they do, and that's what they do, and they're
Mm-hmm.
not trying to climb up the ladder. So, like, that's how I would describe you.
Yeah.
You're a rock star. You're doing the job well, and so on and so forth. That's all you care about, doing the job well and getting paid. It's not about climbing up the corporate ladder, right? And that's what drives that perspective. Then the other perspective is the all star, the one that they get their meaning from the growth in the company, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's less of that divide of like work life balance. That work life balance is work life.
Yeah.
So as I grow in my position and I grow in that role of leadership or whatever it is, that's where my my internal value of like this means something for me is coming from. So when you have that perspective, now you can be driven, you can want to spend more time at work and do all those things because your goals in life literally are intertwined with what's happening at work.
Yeah.
So it's like it's just looking at it from those two perspectives, and there's not one right or wrong, or you
No.
should be this way or whatever. But it's I think it helps to recognize what side of the ladder you are on,
Yeah.
because then it also creates a bit of understanding for the other side.
Yeah, no, I think that's pretty accurate. Yeah, and yeah, I'm a rock star. Yeah,
Rockstar.
yeah, yeah. I
All
think
right.
that's a great way to put it. Yeah, yeah. And I look at all stars and I'm like, you fucking nerd. And it's not a matter of like judging them like, oh, like you guys are fucking idiots. Like you need them. You need them.
Mhm.
I ain't gonna do it. So like somebody got to do it, and I hope it's somebody who really enjoys it.
Mhm.
I can go back to like the relationship I have with my friend that I work with. He's an all star, and I'm a rock star. He has
Mhm.
his desire of climbing up the corporate ladder at the job, and he's like, I want you to become a manager. And I'm like, that's the last thing I want to do. To be
Mhm.
in charge of more than to be in charge of more than not so much to be in charge of, not have more responsibility, but to be in charge of other people and make sure that
Mhm.
they get their job done. Ew.
Yeah, and that's the problem. That's the problem when it comes to not understanding the difference between the all
Yeah.
stars and rock star, because the way that your friend views as an all star, he views everything that way. It's like, no, we all want this, right? And the way you view it, you're like, what is wrong with you? Why would you want that? So when you understand each other, you're like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
he's not going to try to make you a manager when you never want to be a manager, and you also are going to be open and understanding of, oh, I see why you see things that way, but
Yeah.
no. and
Yeah.
and
It's like, I want you to do, you climb that ladder, baby. You
mhm.
do what you got to do. I don't want to be the manager of this department. I don't. I never will. Like, just, I don't have that desire.
Yeah, and again, that understanding that difference is huge in the workplace, because like you said, we need both.
Yeah.
If everyone in every company wanted to go up the corporate ladder, then you'll never have anyone specializing in anything,
No.
because it's just like, what's the next step? And
Yeah.
vice versa. If you had everyone that wanted to stay the same, then you have a very stale company.
Yeah.
So
You don't have
you
any
need
growth. You
both.
need the two,
Hmm.
you know?
And for me, I've been entrepreneur since forever, so
Hmm.
I always saw everything like the all-star view,
Yeah.
and it took me a while to learn about that rock star perspective. But and something that's come up between you and I, where we've had the challenge of like, what do you mean? Where's your driver? Like, what's? And he's like, bro, I don't care. I just don't care. I was like, what the fuck? That doesn't compute. But learning that is huge in terms of, because again, it goes back into that motivator, that driver
Yeah.
for life. And the more we get to know each other, the more we get to know our employees or our bosses, the more we can help understand and have better relationships and all of that.
Yeah. Look at that. Nice little bow. You tied that up nicely. All right, guys. That was another episode of Mindset You. That was episode 101. Look at us growing. So yeah, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment. Another thing to note, we kind of changed up the format of how we're releasing the podcast. We're gonna do it like every other week now. So you can expect 2 episodes from us every month. Everybody has plans. We're big boys now. A lot of things, a lot of moving parts behind the scenes, aside from this podcast, just in life in general. So we're trying to make it work for everybody. We're coming at you 2 episodes a month. It most likely will be every other week. It might not. Who knows? We'll get it to you. You'll have 2 episodes. Thank you guys so much. Don't forget to find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube Music, and anywhere else. VidaProject.com. Go there. Clickety clack. All right. Thank you so much.